there's a certain expectation of, again, a worst case scenario that we have that is unlikely to come true in its entirety. And I think understanding that and believing in that rapid recovery, which is going to be in your hands on the other side, is, again, just another way of trusting yourself to move through it and rebuild exactly what you want. I mean, that's the gorgeous part of it, right? Is if you burn it down, you get to rebuild it for you. And I think that can be a really powerful motivator.
Well, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, the podcast where science meets wisdom. I'm Brittany Ford, holistic nutritionist, biohacker, and mom. And for years, I struggled with gut issues, hormonal imbalances, and the exhaustion of motherhood while running a business. Biohacking and functional medicine became my way back to clarity, vitality, and trust in my body. And that's why I'm here, not just to share information, but to share the practices and perspectives that truly shifted my health and my life. Each week, I bring you science-backed tools, honest conversations, and rituals I live myself so you can return to your own body's wisdom and create longevity on your own terms. Because your body already knows this is just the space to remember. Welcome back to the show. I am so thrilled that you are listening today. This was an awesome episode. I got to sit down with Katherine Rose Woller, who is a storyteller, author, and mom to a 1-year-old daughter. And we got to talk about relationships and marriage and intuition. And this was such a different episode than I normally do. She wrote this book called Calling It Off, Memoir of an Almost Bride. And basically, she just talks about how she called off her wedding and why. And now she helps other women really connect and look at their intuition, look at their relationships and their life. And it was just such an interesting interview to connect with her. You know, we've been talking on Instagram for so long, so it was awesome to finally sit down and do an interview together. We talk about like choosing yourself when you're at a crossroads and how to know if it's fear or intuition, kind of like whispering in your ear, you know, and the power of the mind-body connection when making these big decisions. She's been featured in Forbes, the Daily Mail, Parents, the Mother Chapter, and many other places. And I will link her book in the show notes and on my website so you can find it easily. Highly recommend it. And definitely check out her work. Follow her on Instagram because she's just such an inspiration in this space of intuition, women's health, and even just like women's lifestyle as well. And obviously she's a mother, so we talked a lot about that as well and how your intuition really kicks into gear when you become a mom. Enjoy this episode. Before we start, I want to shout out to my retreat, which actually has a bunch of moms joining us. I just had a mom sign up last week who has 3 kids, and I'm thrilled to have her come. It's going to be so amazing to connect in person with this very small, intimate group of women. I think the biggest pain point that I'm hearing from women who are coming on this retreat is that they need the time and space away from their responsibilities so that they can fill up their own cup and overflow once they return. I think we need this opportunity. We need this excuse, if you want to say, to take a step back and have the space and the time to be like, whoa, okay, this is my life. What's working and what's not working? What needs to change? What can I do better at? And what do I need to let go of? We're going to be doing so many different cool health things, you know, like the IVs and the organic food and the meditation, the yoga, functional fitness class, all these different things. But we're also going to be doing a lot of deeper work. And I'm really, really excited about that. So if you're hearing this and you're like, Brittany, I just want to hang out with you in Costa Rica for a week, for 5 days or 5 nights, 6 days, you are welcome to join us. We are at 50% capacity now. There's single, double, and triple occupancy available, all our different rates. And it's filling up pretty fast, especially because it's still quite a ways away. So I want you to join before it fills up. Of course, it is from March 2nd to 7th in the mountains, the Crystal Mountains of Costa Rica. I would love to have you there. Send me a message on Instagram if you want to hop on a call and we can chat further about it. Otherwise, enjoy this episode, and a quick shout out to Bioptimizers, who have amazing supplements, magnesium, digestive enzymes. Oh my gosh, I literally use them all the time. They are a staple in my family. They they are actually stocking stuffers that I give to people too, because they're just such high quality supplements. I use the magnesium before bed, digestive enzymes at any large meal to get rid of bloating or any negative effects of like some of the things I might be eating, and like lactose or gluten or anything like that. And then I also use their probiotic, which is also incredible. So check out Bioptimizers. My discount code is biohackingbrittany and you get 15% off, which is incredible. And enjoy this episode. I will catch you very soon for another one. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am so excited for this episode. This one is a long time coming. I have Katherine Rose Woller joining me, and we are going to be diving into all things relationship, marriage, what that means on your mental health, which is something that I actually don't think I've talked about too much on my show. And definitely motherhood, because like me, she has a almost 2-year-old. I have like a almost 15-month-old, so I don't know what to call him, but a toddler, I guess.
Yes,
Yes.
that's perfect.
Yes. So we're going to dive all into motherhood. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. So let's hear about your book. Obviously I would have like prefaced it earlier in this, intro of the show, but you wrote a pretty spicy book of your relationship history and
Yes.
calling it off. So what happened? Tell us everything.
Yeah. So the book is called Calling It Off, Memoir of an Almost Bride. And from the title, you can probably guess I was almost married in a previous relationship. I was engaged, I had it all planned out. And 2 weeks before, finally admitted it to myself that it was not the right relationship for me and called off my wedding 2 weeks before. So it is the story of that season, that slow growing knowing, coming back to learning to trust myself and know myself, and unraveling that life that I thought was going to be mine, and kind of the healing on the other side. So it takes us from the day I get engaged until, what is the start of another happy ending? I'll phrase it that way.
Yeah. And did you know, like prior to the 2 weeks, that like, hey, something is actually not like jiving with me for this right now?
Yes. So the day that I got engaged, I had a feeling of what I didn't realize then was doubt. Um, but I had a feeling of something just not being quite right. Like it just not feeling like super aligned, felt it physically, knew it emotionally. It just felt a
Oh.
little flat. And then it took me 11 and a half months to really kind of have all those internal conversations with myself. But as time went on, more and more doubts would creep to the surface until finally they were literally screaming at me. And it just took me a long time to be honest with myself and kind of acknowledge that it was more than what is normal relationship anxiety, normal trepidation for a big life change, and really understanding that it was so very different and so much heavier than that, and truly, truly a no for me. So it took a long time.
Wow. Wow. What were the physical symptoms that came up for you?
So I'll preface this by saying it's different for everybody. I can speak to what I found to be my patterning, which is again something I now looking back use as data points for when I'm also out of alignment and decisions in life now. But for me, it was like true sleeplessness. I would have headaches for weeks on end that wouldn't go away, racing heart, just a feeling of heavy contraction. There wasn't like an easeful, grounded relaxing of my shoulders. I was always just holding it in, like bottling it up and physically contracting in to try to hold it together when I knew it needed to all fall apart. Um, so those were just a few for me, but they got stronger and stronger and louder and louder as the months went on. So I really was unable to then eventually ignore them because I had a 2-week headache and I couldn't sleep. And interestingly, after I had a very difficult conversation with my then fiance, those dissipated rapidly. And there was a peace and a release that came on the other side, which further reiterated what my body had been telling me the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this actually happens quite a lot, right? Like the body is actually trying to tell us
Mhm.
something, and it's easier to ignore it and just like sit with the discomfort. Um, and it's interesting that it happened with something so, I don't want to say obvious, but like you got engaged and all of these feelings started to come up and these physical symptoms started to come up. Whereas
Mhm.
sometimes I think with women, it could be something more subtle over time that gets louder, like maybe they're in a job that they don't like. But it's been like 10 years, and it's actually presenting as like could be headaches or maybe even like infertility or something like that, right? And it's just like quieter.
And like chronic gut issues and just I think there's which is almost more insidious. It's almost more difficult to, I'll say diagnose, but
Yeah.
to understand yourself when that slow creep of, low grade discomfort, misalignment really turns into like a full physical manifestation of something is wrong. And if it creeps in slowly, it's hard to see. But I mean, one of the biggest blessings to come out of this whole process was learning that pattern for myself and now being able to recognize it early with other big decisions, right? Like a job or a move, relationships are an obvious one, but even things like, do I say yes to my friend's birthday party or do I really feel like that's a no for me? You'll understand time is precious as a mom. And so like really sinking into that on a daily decision basis has really changed my ability to trust myself through all the decisions in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I really do think there is something to be said about your intuition kicking in when you become a mom. Maybe not
Mhm,
kicking in, but like becoming so much stronger. And I felt that
mhm,
actually the moment I got pregnant. Like I felt this like strong sense of like, I think we need to move. I need to live closer to my mom. Like, I don't see how this is going to work in our current setup right here. Like, holy shit, we're going to move across the country pregnant. Okay. What does that look like? But like, this is what's keeping me up at night. And I think this is the best move for us. Um,
mhm.
so uncomfortable, so hard, and so much change.
Yeah, but I think the discomfort of the process is so different than the discomfort in the decision,
Mm,
right? Like, so I think when the decision is bringing up all of this,
yeah.
it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy transition, right? It doesn't mean the change is going to be easy, but it's going to be the outcome that's going to best serve you, right? And I think it's going to be easier to flow through that because you have the trust in where you're going. And so I do think it's important to distinguish that it's like not going to necessarily be easy to move across the country pregnant and up for your
Mm,
whole life, but that grounded intuition will hopefully feel more peaceful in how right? Like it's not going to be fear based. It's going to be just soulful and feeling true to
yeah.
you.
Yeah. How do you distinguish like the voice of fear, but also the voice of intuition?
I think it can be tricky. Um, for me, and I think for a lot of people, the voice of fear or conditioning or expectation feels really like it's at a bit of a fever pitch and it feels very time constrained and it feels very deadline based and it feels
Mm,
anxious in and of itself. Where I
mhm,
think when, if that feeling comes at me and it's ruminating and we got to do this and da, 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 that doesn't feel like intuition to me. The intuition feels more of a grounded knowing and belief in myself and belief of what's coming. Again, which may be challenging, but the decision itself doesn't feel fraught with deadline time and panic.
mm. Where do you feel fear in your body versus intuition for you?
Oh, that's a great question. When I'm in the fear space, it's all in my head. Like
Mhm.
for me, it's truly the racing thoughts, the headaches, the clenching jaw. I mean, it all goes high and literally almost leaves my body, right? Like goes to the highest point. And when it's intuition based, I think it just seeks, like, sinks down into my core
Yeah.
in a way that's hard to articulate, but if you feel it, you feel it. And it just sinks into this kind of central space of belief. And understanding how to feel that through time, especially as a mom, when sometimes you make choices that are best for you, your family, and your kiddos, but which other people have very differing opinions on. I mean, that sinking in feeling is what I lean back on, honestly.
This episode is brought to you by Optimize Her, my women's biohacking retreat in Costa Rica, happening March 2nd to 7th, 2026. I am so excited, guys. This isn't just another yoga retreat. It's a 5-night, 6-day, science-backed health optimization woven into feminine restoration, designed specifically for women's bodies. We'll dive into functional medicine and longevity tools, experience healing sessions like sound baths and cacao ceremonies, and recalibrate with daily movement, spa rituals, and farm-to-table meals that support hormones, gut health, and vitality. It's not about fixing. It's about clearing the noise so you can actually tune into your body again. If you're ready for deep restoration and transformation, you can explore all the details in the show notes, and I would absolutely love to see you in Costa Rica. Yeah. For me, it's like the gut feeling, right? The gut reaction, all of that is like intuition.
Mhm.
And when I'm having thoughts of fear, it's always like worst case scenario, or how do I protect myself from this worst case scenario? Or how do I protect my family now too? And it's also rooted in like what if, which is all the anxiety and the stress. And to your point as well, I heard someone say this of like intuition whispers, but
Mhm.
fear will be like so loud and obnoxious. But the intuition is that like little thing that's like, hey, I don't know about this, you know?
And it's so easy to ignore. I think that's the hardest part is if you're not purposely and proactively really trying to seek that out, you can inadvertently miss it. It doesn't mean it's not gonna come back around, right? Like, it's gonna keep talking to you, but it has to be an intention, I think, and so that makes it a little bit easier to hear.
Yeah. Why do you think intuition becomes louder when women become mothers?
I Part of it, I think, is around our ability to release some of our programming, right? Like, I think there's a natural growth as we mature and age through, puberty and then young adulthood. And depending on when you enter motherhood, I wasn't a mom until I was 36. So I became a mom a little later in life. But as you grow into viewing and caring and really protecting people outside yourself,
Mhm.
something about that just changes your care about what the other is saying, and it
Mhm.
it frees you up to listen to yourself and to listen to that intuition in a way that I think is hard to release
Yeah.
prior. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a serious sense of selfishness before you become a mom. And you
Mhm.
actually like you can't even really see it, to be honest. Like you can't even really see how much you're consumed with your life until you're like, "Oh, I have to actually carry the mental load of an entire baby who cannot do anything on their own without me."
Yep.
And so now these other things that I used to care about are like frivolous. They don't matter, you know?
You don't have time to let them take up space, right?
No.
And like,
Yeah.
it's a necessity. I also think it's one of the beautiful strippings away, right? Like you literally are cracked open by this process, and all of that has to fall away in order to unselfishly pick up the care and the need of this this little human that you've just brought into the world. So it's kind of a necessity, I think,
Yeah.
and one of the beautiful parts about a tough process.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is your like current relationship right now versus like the one that you were in that you ended?
Well, I'll start by saying this. I am incredibly lucky. So, as you go through the book, you get to see the unraveling of my former engagement, I'll call it, you know, humorous reentry into the dating world that taught me a lot in quick succession of how to say no to an unaligned partnership really rapidly. And at the end, spoiler alert, but I happened upon a really fabulous relationship that is my now husband. And I have the opportunity to plan a second wedding and see how that was so very different from my first. So there is an ease and a partnership and a confidence in this relationship that I did not have. There's
Mm.
a growth together that has been really intentional and really purposeful. We both came to the relationship obviously a little later in life. I think that had already been time to mature on our own, but there's a commitment to maturing together as a family and as a couple that has been really incredible to see over the last, what, we've been married 3 years, together 6. And that's a lot of life change to happen through 6 years, and to see us come through that and then invite a baby into our family and change through that has actually been the most magical experience. It's tough. It was not always easy, but to see
Yeah.
the commitment and the grace with which we approach each other, I think has really just
Yeah.
felt so beautifully aligned to me.
Yeah. How do you feel like it shifted when you both became parents together?
I think it's And I'll be curious to hear your take on it too. I think those first months are really hard, and I don't think we went in having any expectation in those first few months about how we needed to look as a couple. I think we just kind of agreed to be in the trenches, and that willingness to struggle, I think, was
Mhm.
really important. But then to see the way in which my husband stepped up for me as I was caring for our daughter, and to step up for our family, and to totally shift even something as simple as like who makes dinner, to totally shift our household duties without complaint, but with communication was pretty incredible, because it wasn't always easy to shift, and you don't know what's going to shift, but to see the care that he puts into our family just fills my heart. It's amazing to see. And I will say, we make time every week for date night. It's a non-negotiable for
Right.
us. I believe that without us as a couple, there is no us as a family. And
Right.
so we have intentionally pulled that time away to stay best friends, to stay connected, to laugh, and just have a goof about every now and then together.
Yeah.
So it's been lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like very similar-ish. Like the beginning, especially those first few months, like I just had no capacity for for anybody, really. Not even really for
No.
myself. And so I didn't it's really hard to explain to my friends who are getting pregnant now or haven't had kids yet that like this idea of the mental load and like having capacity for your husband. Even like for me, having capacity for my dog, I was like, someone needs to feed you. It's not going to,
Mhm.
I don't know how you're going to survive this next year. Like,
With help from somebody else?
yes, somebody
Yeah.
else take care of you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, we got a puppy when our daughter was a year.
Wow.
And even a year later, I was like, what I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Like, you're gonna have to take this on. Like,
Yeah.
I need help. A year later, I still
Yeah.
need help with capacity. But
Yeah.
I think one of the pieces I'll say about the capacity piece, though, for us, and I think in general, like, I don't think it's always equal. I think it's fair, and I think the fairness is based heavily on capacity in any given day or situation. And like that's the compromise. And so for us, that's what's fair is what is going on with capacity for both of us and
Mhm.
who can step up in a moment and being really
Yeah.
kind of brutally honest in that space.
Yeah. Which is really hard. It's really hard to have those, like, discussions. Like, I don't know how it was for you, but even my brain did not feel like it was working properly, probably for the first, like, 4 or 5 months. So there's no way, like, I mentally even could have had a conversation about capacity when, like, I'm not sleeping, I'm breastfeeding around the clock. Like, I'm just like, "Ooh, I'm in this tornado," and I'm like, "Okay." Like,
And I think in those moments though, like it's important for your community to see that,
yeah,
right? And to be vulnerable enough in what you are able to voice that someone can see the truth in that. Because you're right, you're not going to approach it like, here, I'm at 70% capacity today when I was up 4 times. I've been pumping 800 million hours today. I haven't eaten. And I think I forgot to put on clean pants. Like
yeah,
you're not having a capacity conversation there. But
yeah,
if you're saying, I am struggling today, I'm not feeling like myself, I need a little help. If you can be just vulnerable, someone can see the gap there, right? And two at that. So I do think the vulnerability, even without the the logical explanation, can help.
yeah, yeah, and it's being open like that that I think makes a difference, but I also think just giving yourself grace. And I
Mhm.
and I look back and I think already, like, I wish I'd given myself more grace. I wish I had planned more time off from work. I wish, like, I did a lot, and it's fine because I'm where I am today because of it, but at the same time, I don't know, like, if I do have another kid, I will do it differently.
So, yeah, I am pregnant with our second,
Mhm.
early second trimester, but it is, public news at this point, I guess. Um, and that is something that creeps up a lot is how am I gonna do this differently? How am I looking back and maybe not making time to cherish those moments and taking on too much? I found my publisher with calling it off when I was 3 months postpartum. So,
Oh.
yeah, which was interesting timing. It
Mm,
worked in that it forced me to release some perfectionism and it forced me to, like, really be intentional with my time. On the other hand, it added a lot of stress that I didn't sit and I
yeah,
don't think I'm a newborn person anyway, but maybe I would have been a newborn person had I given myself space to do that. And so I
yeah,
am planning to take longer this time and really be unavailable in a way that I've never allowed myself to be,
mhm.
um, ever, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is something so special about that pause,
Mhm.
even as messy and as hard as it can be, um, yeah, and it's really hard, like, I just found like, honestly, I found it really hard to relate to a lot of my friends because if they work a 9 to 5, they get, like, this mat leave that pays them maybe, like, 50% or they're capped out, whatever,
Mhm.
but it doesn't matter. They're off work. And then they go back on, like, year 1 or 6 months or whatever they have, and there's, like, a very clear cut of, like, mat leave, not mat leave. And for me, like, it just wasn't like that. And I think that it
Mhm.
was great because there was so much flexibility there. But then also, I'm just like, I think it was too stressful and it didn't need to be like that.
Well, and then it's a constant for you trying to switch back and forth, and you're
Yeah.
constantly thinking about work. I mean, there's a beauty in entrepreneurship, right?
Mm,
There's also a giant challenge, and I think it's one that's exacerbated in
yeah.
the maternity immediate postpartum phase. Like, there's not the same supports. There's a different level of connection to what you're doing, and you have the ability most of the time to do it from your home. So it's easy to slip in and take your time there rather than resting sometimes, which is just what you need. So it's a challenge. It's one I will do differently this time.
Yeah.
But if you have any other insights, you let me know.
Okay. I will. For the woman listening who potentially feels out of alignment for something,
Mhm.
like maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's career. Or it could be anything. I don't know. It could be a move. My gosh, there's so many different things it could be. How do you encourage her to actually trust that intuition when it could mean like literally blowing up her entire world that she's known for so
Yeah.
long?
I think there's two pieces of that. I think one is if you're feeling misaligned in a specific area, I also bet there's another area of your life where you feel aligned and confident and really positive in your ability to follow your gut, whether it's a relationship, being a friend, if you feel like you're a great friend or a sister or a mom, like there's some place when you feel really powerfully aligned. And I think if you can tap into what that feels like, again, physically and emotionally, and extrapolate it and use that confidence to build in other parts of your life, I think that could be really powerful to use that and practice and feel it. Um, I also think it's really important to acknowledge the hope on the other side. It sounds super cheesy, but
Yeah.
we torture ourselves so much more in the lead up than we'll actually ever suffer in the reality. So you
Mm.
might burn your life down, right? Like I literally burned my life to the ground. I had to unravel everything I thought I was going to have. And it was a lot. And there was a lot of grief and there was a lot of processing that had to be done. But things got better faster than I could have ever imagined. And I think it's because I was really open to that stripping process and to that grieving process and just allowed myself to feel it all intensely and then move through it. Like it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Not nearly as many people hated me as I thought were going to hate me. I mean, my family welcomed me with open arms and some were actually proud. I think
Mm.
there's a certain expectation of again, a worst case scenario that we have that is unlikely to come true in its entirety.
Mhm.
And I think understanding that and believing in that rapid recovery, which is going to be in your hands on the other side, is again just another way of trusting yourself to move through it and rebuild exactly what you want. I mean, that's the gorgeous part of it, right? Is if you burn it down, you get to rebuild it for you. And I think
Yeah.
that can be a really powerful motivator.
If you're a woman juggling work, motherhood, and trying to stay healthy, you know how easy it is to feel burnt out. The fatigue, the bloating, the restless nights, the hormonal ups and downs that make everything harder. And that's exactly why I love Bioptimizers, supplements that actually work with your biology. Their magnesium breakthrough is one of my daily must haves. It combines all 7 forms of magnesium to calm your nervous system, support hormonal balance, improve sleep, and help you finally feel grounded again. Doesn't that sound nice? And if you're tired of feeling puffy or bloated after meals, their mass enzymes and P3OM probiotics are game changers. They help you digest food properly, reduce inflammation, and keep your gut and mood balanced. Every formula is science backed, third party tested, and designed for real results, not just quick fixes. You can try them at bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany and use my code biohackingbrittany for 15% off your order. That's bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany because when your gut, hormones, and nervous system are supported, everything else feels easier. I love that. Did you use certain tools like meditation or breath work that, like, when you were in the thick of it, you're like, this is how I'm grounding myself every single day?
Now I use a lot of meditation and journaling.
Nice.
So it's been a natural evolution and I do it every day, no matter when my daughter wakes up. Like there is morning minutes for mom to
Oh,
make sure we get that in. And so now that's a practice I lean on. But then it was a lot of physical movement and a lot of like physically moving the emotions through my body. I've been an athlete my whole life. A movement practice is deeply important to me. And it was, I think, one of the things that like saved me mentally then and now. Like if I do not move on a daily basis, it's not good. It's not good for
mhm.
me. It's not good for everyone around me. So movement for me was incredibly important. And then also, honestly, therapy was a really important tool for me. I've gone to a therapist off and on for a huge part of my life. And so I had someone that I had been working with kind of proactively who I knew, who knew me. And she was such a partner in this in a way that was really, I think, important for me to have someone to really be honest with when I was finally honest with myself, to then finally be honest with my therapist, because I wasn't sharing things with my friends and family. And so having a therapist to connect with and process with was hugely important to me. I believe in it. I'll stand by it. There's a whole chapter in the book about
Mm.
therapy. So yeah, I am definitely a supporter of that. And those things, again, have led me into daily journaling, meditation, still movement on a regular basis, and therapy, but it looks different now as a mom and different
Yeah.
needs and different things. So I think those were really essential in just making it through that fire.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, therapy's been huge in my life, and I ebb and flow with it, but
Hmm.
I had the same counselor, or yeah, clinical counselor, I guess, and it's been awesome to have the evolution with her too, of like, "You saw me before I was engaged and then married and now pregnant, baby, whatever,"
Hmm.
which has been really beautiful, and I really encourage people to, like, find that person. You don't have to go weekly, but, like, just have them there and ebb and flow.
Knowing that yeah, knowing that you have somebody that you do connect with and you can go through when you're not actively in crisis,
Yeah.
I think is really important because if you are in a place of giant struggle, by all means, still seek someone out. But it becomes an obstacle that, like, the effort is just a little bit harder. It's a little bit too much. By having someone in place, you're removing that obstacle. And I think that's super helpful.
Yeah. Have you ever done, like, EMDR or, like, different types of therapy?
Yeah, I've done some EMDR. There's also some components of that in some of the guided meditations I do. Um,
Cool.
I think it's really effective, particularly as a physical person. I totally recognize, that I'm storing things and needing to find a way to rewire and release. I think it's not my favorite. I don't like to cry. I don't love the emotional release.
Yeah.
However, I think it's because of that, I think it's even more helpful for me. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing it for the last, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, or 2
What do you
months,
think?
something like that. It's really interesting. I didn't really know what to think about it, but we're going through some things that, like, happened in my childhood and with my parents,
Hmm.
like, these really, like, heavy things that, like, you think you've worked through because you've talked about them, but then you go and do EMDR and you're like, "Whoa," like, this emotion that's coming out when I sit in this memory.
Hmm.
And then
And it's powerful.
it's very powerful. And then there's the core belief, and then you're like, "Oh, wait, but that core belief is showing up today still in a different way." So, it's, like, not for the faint of heart, because you really gotta face your shit. Like
It's quite confronting. It
Yes.
really is. But
Yeah.
I mean, the cool thing about it though too is, like, that core belief is going to show up umpteen hundred times in your life, no matter how you're working through it. But every time, you do have a release around that.
Mhm.
It's a little easier, a little more nuanced. You're
Yeah.
getting deeper to the core. Like, it's such a process, but yeah, not an easy one. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, with your kid and your baby on the way, as they get older, have you thought about how you can teach them about intuition and, like,
Mhm.
alignment and that type of narrative even as, like, young children?
Yeah, so I think it starts with, you know, the early messaging, right? Of what's right as a woman. So I have a daughter, I'm having another little girl, so I'm, terrified of all that they're going to encounter in the world. Um, but I think trying to let them create that identity with as little
Mm,
pressure from me as possible and getting to that, just starting with that core sense of self. I think having a strong sense of self leads to self-trust, which leads to trusting your intuition. And so for them, they're at such, well, one is still physically growing, but my daughter, she's at such a interesting age of establishing self.
Mhm.
And so that's where I'm focusing for now because that's what I see. But the book is dedicated to my daughter. My hope is that this belief and feeling of identity and self-trust can be her legacy as much as mine. And I hope that she doesn't go through the same situation, but she's going to go through things that are equally as challenging. And so just to be an honest companion and really upfront about, what I've been through and some choices I've made, I think is will be important when it's age appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think it can start younger than people actually probably think of like trusting your intuition. Even when kids have like friends, right? Like, oh, you don't want to play with her? Oh, like why? Oh, well, I don't know. Like she said this or she makes me feel like this. And it's like, okay, like maybe you shouldn't hang out with her if she doesn't make you feel safe, right? Like just those types of things. Like I don't remember having any type of conversation like that. Right.
No, and they're so body based right now too. I think even just giving them, I mean, sometimes there is no ability to like full autonomy over like we have to change a diaper, right?
Mhm.
However, giving them as much physical autonomy, I think for them is that starting point at this stage that then leads into them saying like, this is how I'm feeling when I'm around this friend. And you'd be like, okay, like let's go with that and let's explore it. And just believing that they know more than they can say because
Mm.
their language may not be there, but they are sentient beings and they are full of experience and knowledge and just trusting them, I think is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so hard because like the things that they might experience, they don't fully understand, right?
Mhm.
And I think about things like, unfortunately, like, sexual abuse that happens to kids and like they don't know they don't know what that is. They don't know what that means, but maybe they're trying to tell you that they don't want to go to that person's house anymore, but they don't have the language to be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z happened. It made me feel like this." But all they can say is, "I don't wanna go to this house." And so, it's a really good question of, like, how do you trust your kids?
Oh, I mean, I don't think there's a one solid answer. If you figure that out, fabulous. Let's let's explore it together.
Yeah.
But I do think nobody knows your kids like you do,
Mhm.
right? And so it's part of trusting yourself to trust your kid and to really listen to what they're saying, to see their actions and understand them and just know enough about their typical day to day to see when something's anomalous. I think that is a big piece of that. And again, trusting that you know your kid, trusting yourself is a big part of that as a mom.
Yeah. Yeah, because you would think, like, the mom's intuition would pick up on, "Hey, there's something off here. I don't know what it is, but, like, there's something that could be going wrong here."
Yeah, and if you don't feel that, I think that's a lot of pressure, but I also think it's a privilege, right? Like
Mm.
you have the privilege of knowing that child and being responsible for their care.
Yeah.
And so if you can, I mean, do your absolute best. There is no perfect, but just trusting that I think will go a long way. And my hope is by trusting her and trusting my relationship with her, like we can
Mm.
get to a place where she's able to construct that identity that's best for her.
Yeah. And I think, like, we model behavior, right? So if she sees you trusting yourself, and, like, whatever that could look like, that could be something so simple, but if you start trusting yourself of, like, I don't know, like, maybe you don't feel well, so you take time off work because you feel like something is coming through or you're gonna get the flu, whatever. I don't know, whatever it might be, like, that's modeling to her to, like, trust her body and, like, listen to the
Mhm.
cues that are showing up and that type of thing. Um, Especially if you speak it out loud too, to her.
Yeah, if you can if I mean, I narrate everything these days. I'm sure you do too,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
but narrating not only what's happening, but that thought process, I think
Mhm.
can be really interesting. And also I think the prioritization of self piece, I think, is another component of this that as women, we're not necessarily taught to do. As moms, it's even harder. But like, I go to the gym, I take my daughter. We know this is what's happening. Like, mom is prioritizing physical and mental well being right now. And so I think letting her see that of taking a little bit of time for me, even when I do feel guilty, I think it can only help her
Yeah.
in the long run. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had someone on my show come on a while ago, and he's older and his kids are older. They have 4 kids. And he told me that his wife takes a night away every single month and goes to stay in a hotel. And because she just needs to like reset, whatever, take her time. And I thought about it after and I thought, wow, like I wonder how differently I would have viewed my mom if we had 3 kids. Oh, she had 3 kids. Like if she had done that, of like, wow, like mom, you need time to yourself in a hotel. That's really cool that you're doing that, you know?
Mhm.
Like,
I listened to that episode and I was like, "I need to do that 1,000%." I haven't done it yet, but it's been on my to-do goals list for many months, and maybe now that we're bringing this back up, I will actually do that as well.
yeah, but I mean, even you going to the gym though is like a prime example of like mama needs to take care of her body so she can show up better for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She didn't love it at first, but now she does.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's really hard. And there is a lot of guilt there. Um, like I just went away on last weekend, my first night away without my husband, without my kid. And it was hard. It was harder than I thought it was going to be. I went away in September with my husband for 2 nights and that was fine. But I had him there and I had that like sense of like almost like safety. And then when I was by
Mhm.
myself without my whole family, I was like, okay, I know, like in my brain, I know that they're fine. I know that they're sleeping. I know he's fed. I know everything is fine. But still, it's like, I feel this sense of like anxiousness and like, what do I do with that? But I need to step away to show up better. But I feel
Mhm.
anxious when I step away. I'm like, okay, how do I get through this?
I mean, I think part of it's practice. I think
Yeah.
the more you do it, the easier it gets. I too took my first, like, solo time for a work thing without my husband or my daughter, and it was discombobulating. I was like,
Yeah.
who am I in this moment, and where are my priorities?" But, it's for
Mhm.
4 days, and by the end, I will say, like, there was a piece to it of, like, I read a book. Like, it was so nice. So it was good practice,
Mhm.
and I think it's, not something I'm gonna do all the time, but
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to be like, "You know what? I actually can enjoy this. I can go to a yoga class even though I'm here for work, and I can have a salad that makes me happy and eat the whole thing without it being thrown on the floor," and, just take a moment to be a solo human again, but it's
Yeah.
good practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going on a retreat in November for 3 nights in Florida. Um, and I know I need it. Like, I know I need it for my business and mentally as a woman
Mhm.
and all of these things. And a lot of the women who are going are moms, right? Um, but it still makes me feel like a lot of questions of like, who am I to take time away from my kid? You know, or even the guilt of like, I only have 1 kid. What am I complaining about? Like other people have
Oh,
4
that's
kids, you know?
yeah, but you don't know their circumstance, right? I
Mhm.
think that you can't compare. I
Mm.
really don't think you can. I think that there's a lot of challenge in having one that when you have multiples who play together one day, maybe it's slightly different, and I think that it can be just as hard for you, and we should not comparison is the thief of joy, like, truly,
Yeah.
and so just trying to not to compare, for better or worse, I think that's
Mhm.
what I try to do, because then I spiral, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, and social media is a huge aspect of that. Like, I honestly, I try to only create right now and not consume
Mhm.
because the consumption sometimes like kills me. And then I feel like, oh, why am I not like that? And now I don't want to create. So now I'm just going to exit the app and just be done with this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, it's social media is a whole other
Yeah.
problem. I mean, it's part of what made me nervous about calling off my wedding. Like, we had these
Mhm.
perfect engagement photos and this whole life curated
Wow.
online, and then you don't have the wedding online
Yeah.
and people are reaching out, and then you have to essentially, like, publicly remove this piece of your life, and it invites opinions whether you like it or not, and I think
Mm.
it's its own beast, and like you, I try not to consume and have, like, really
Mhm.
had to put in parameters around morning and evening phone usage, and it just sets me up better without it, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah. We actually need to do that better in our house. Something I've been talking to my husband about is like, can we have like phone free time from end of day of work until he goes to bed? So like whatever, that's an hour, hour and a half maybe, right? I mean, this is beyond the scope of this discussion really, but I'm very worried about screens and children and
Yeah.
the addiction and me being on my phone and then I'm going to tell you not to go on a screen, but you see me on my phone. So who am I to say that?
Yeah, it's hard, and I've tried to put my phone completely I've stopped wearing an Apple Watch, to be honest. I've
Nice.
stopped wearing an Apple Watch so I don't get pinged when I'm with her and then feel like I need to look at it or do it or whatever, and I keep my phone completely out of reach because, again, it's her watching me get
Mhm.
sucked in and so glued into my phone that I'm not attending to her, and it's different if I'm folding laundry and she's kind of helping. I mean, that's a different interaction even than me just being glued into something
Yeah.
because I feel compelled to answer in a somebody else's timely manner. So yeah, I'm trying to remove the same thing of, like, just keep it physically out of my awareness when she's
Yes.
awake.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Like I'll put it in a certain part of the kitchen where it's like face down
Mhm.
where they're charging in the corner for me like once he's asleep. Like dinner time we don't have it. And now like he's almost 15 months and he just like he knows already. He
Mhm.
knows. And, like, he knows when you get sucked in and they don't understand what a phone is, right? You talk about intuition and you talk about screen is like, there's no intuition happening at all when you are plugged into screens. There's none. Like,
Mhm.
every signal is down, right? Because
Yeah.
you're just like, blah, 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 like, "Oh, what's going on with my body? Oh, right, let me blink." Like, you're zoned out completely. So, ugh, I feel like it's an uphill battle.
Oh, yeah, and it will change and evolve, and
Yeah.
there are benefits to the technology for sure that we don't even know that they will come to make use of, and we have time for that. Like, I don't need to plug her in just yet, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. Um, my last question for you, and as we've been talking, I've been thinking about my one friend. Um, actually I have a couple friends. They will stay nameless. Um, what happens when you see a friend in a relationship that you feel like, something is not good here?
Yeah, so I can speak to what my friends did really beautifully,
Mhm.
and I will say part of it is nobody jumped on with pressure, nobody jumped in with opinions preemptively, like, there was no, "Hey, you're acting out of character," is because you don't wanna get married. There was a, "Hey, you're acting out of character, is everything all right?" And it gave me the opportunity to acknowledge to myself, like, "Oh, this is out of character. Like, I am not acting in a way that I love, or I'm not being the kindest," because that all took a downhill turn as well. Or I am not happy, and this is an odd dynamic. And so it kind of clued me in, but it also then gave me the opportunity to still just process with me and not process out loud, because I think it's hard when you talk negatively about a relationship to friends or family and then stay, because they will always remember the negative things. And so I was really conscious of that. And yet my friends still let me know that they saw me and they were there. And so that's what was really powerful. And then afterwards, the first person I called, she's called the ride or die in the book. After I had made my decision, before I'd even had the conversation with my then fiance, to say, I'm not getting married. I'm not going to do this. Her her response wasn't, "Oh my God, no. Oh, shock and awe. Oh, I knew he was a, whatever, whatever." It was just, if you're sure, how can I help? And it was just that validation and support. And that was the best thing people could have possibly done, because I don't know that I would have listened until I was ready. And I would have hated to have lost those friendships
Yeah.
um, based on those conversations if I didn't need to. So I give my friends a lot of credit. They showed up with acknowledgement, support, and then ultimately validation kind of after the fact.
Yeah. Oh man, it's such a hard line to walk.
Hmm.
Like I had a friend, my best friend in university, she started dating this guy in 4th year and he was terrible. Like he was terrible. And I had talk about intuition. I knew he went to a different school. Like there was so many red flags. And I
Hmm.
told her, we were whatever, 21, I guess. I don't know. And I told her, and then she like pulled away
Yeah.
for the months that she was dating him. And then turns out he was cheating on her the entire time at the school that he was at. We got proof because one of my other friends knew the other girl, blah, 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 whatever happened. They broke up and then eventually she came around and we became friends again.
Yeah. But you held a mirror that she wasn't ready to see, right?
Yeah.
I think, and that can be really hard as the friend, right? As you in that
Yes.
situation of like, what do I do here? Wanting nothing but the best for my friend.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was like nobody held that mirror too too much until I was ready. And they let me kind of acknowledge when ready was. And so it ended up working out for the best. But that would be my advice,
Yeah.
gently,
Mhm.
gently validate and be a mirror. And
Yeah.
also just understand people will come to that realization in their own time. And there's nothing we can do to force it.
That's kind of where I'm at now with like some of the relationships I see around me is like I have this fear that someone will say, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" Like if you knew why like you could have saved me all this heartache. Like what if they say that to me in the future? So I'm like, "Well, do I say something?"
I mean, but the reality is like they can't outsource that decision, and they're not going to, even if you tell them. They will not outsource that decision, right? So like you are trusting that they know what's best for them, and you trust them to take care of themselves, right? So like
Right.
it's easy to ask that question after the fact, but I will say that was never one of my reactions. Like I never once thought about my friends and said, "Why didn't you tell me?" Like I was never irritated with anyone, even though down the line I found out that some of them really knew a whole lot more than they let on.
Wow.
I was never irritated. So I would hope that that's not the first reaction. I was more just grateful for their presence.
Yeah.
And I think most friends would be. I
Mhm.
don't think that's a huge risk.
Yeah. Yeah, like now I move in a space of I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing with your life.
Mhm.
And I will be here no matter what happens. And that's it. That's end of discussion.
You
Right.
can't ask for a better friend than that. That's what a
Yeah.
girlfriend is for. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
definition.
But it is really hard because like there's been many times I've had to bite my tongue of like, oh, he shouldn't be saying things like that to your face. Like, he called you X, Y, and Z in front of your kid, like really obvious red flags. And you're just like, you guys just got married. This is not my space. Okay.
I think one question that you can ask somebody is like, how did this situation feel for you? Like, and just put it out there of like, no judgment. You know, I witnessed this. Like, how did this feel for you? And if they're like, what do you mean? Totally fine. Like, clearly not there. Right. But if they take that opening to be vulnerable, I think then you are further building your own relationship and also then just being that safe space for them. So I think if you can ask a question in a no, no judgment type of way, sometimes it opens the door just enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's very good advice. Um, if people want to connect with you and read your book and talk to you
Yeah.
online, maybe on Instagram, where can they do that and how can they find you?
Yeah. Two best places to get to me, to reach me, are Instagram. It's at Katherine Waller. I am on there when my daughter is sleeping, and love to hear messages about your story. If you do read the book, any and all of that. My website, katherinerosewaller.com. There's also, contact page through there. And then the book, calling it off Memoir of an Almost Bride, is available on Amazon. It is available through the online ordering of any of your favorite local independent bookstores. You can also ask them to order it for you if you want to support local. And then there is an audiobook as well, which I narrated. So you can hear
Hmm.
the whole juicy story in my voice from me directly. And that's on Audible.
Oh, awesome. I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Okay. I will put that in the show notes and on my website so everyone can find you easily. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on the show. This was great. And you're just so easy to chat to.
Thank you so much. It was a joy for sure.
Thank you for listening to Biohacking with Brittany. I hope today's conversation gave you something to take into your own life, a practice, a perspective, or simply a reminder to trust your body. If you love this episode, please leave a review, share it with someone else who could benefit, and join me over on Instagram at biohackingbrittany for more. And if you're ready to go deeper, you can explore my retreats, community, favorite tools, all linked for you in the show notes. Until next time, remember, your body already knows.